Chapter 7, The Burning. Blinding, searing light. It poured from the bell in Clara's hand, flooding the forest, the chapel, the village. The trees groaned under its weight. The ground cracked. The sky turned a shade of red that didn't belong to any sunset. For a moment, everything was still, suspended between breath and silence. Then the screaming began. Not human. Not animal. Something older. The veil had torn. Clara collapsed to her knees, the bell slipping from her fingers. It rolled across the moss and stopped at the base of the stone arch, pulsing like a dying star. Around her, the villagers writhed, not in pain, but in transformation. Their bodies shimmered, flickered, blurred. Some dissolved into ash. Others split into shadows. A few simply vanished, leaving behind only footprints and echoes. The forest caught fire. But it wasn't flames that consumed it, it was memory. Trees burned with images, children laughing, prayers whispered, secrets buried. The fire didn't destroy. It revealed. Clara saw the truth in every flicker, the rituals performed in desperation, the sacrifices made in silence, the pact sealed with blood. She saw her grandmother. Standing at the edge of the clearing, her face illuminated by the burning trees. She looked younger, stronger, but her eyes held the same sorrow. She stepped forward, untouched by the chaos. "You rang the bell," she said. "I had no choice," Clara replied. "There's always a choice." Clara wanted to argue, but the ground beneath her cracked open. The pit of ash had returned, wider now, deeper. From its depths rose the hollow saint, taller than before, its veil billowing like smoke, its bell glowing with fire. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. It judged. Clara stood, trembling. "I gave myself. I completed the rite." The saint raised its hand. The bell rang once. The fire stopped. The villagers froze. The forest stilled. Then the saint pointed, not at Clara, but at the chapel. She turned. It was burning. Real flames this time, licking the stone, devouring the altar. The protective runes melted. The stained glass shattered. The 13th bell in the tower rang on its own, louder than ever, shaking the earth. Clara ran toward it. Inside, the chapel was collapsing. Smoke filled the air. The trapdoor to the cellar was open, the pit glowing with heat. She descended, coughing, stumbling. The chamber was empty, no bones, no ash, no runes. Only the bell. Whole again. She picked it up. It was cold. Silent. Final. She climbed back up and emerged into the courtyard. The villagers were gone. The forest was quiet. The sky had returned to its normal shade. The hollow saint stood at the edge of the trees, watching. Clara raised the bell. "I sealed it." The saint bowed. Then it vanished. The stone arch crumbled. The fire died. And Clara was alone. Chapter 8, The 13th Prayer. The village was quiet again. Not the eerie silence that had haunted Swearsden for generations, but something gentler, like the hush after a storm, when the world holds its breath and begins to rebuild. The fires had died. The forest had stilled. The 13th bell no longer rang. Clara stood alone in the chapel, surrounded by ash and memory. The altar was scorched, the stained glass shattered, the protective runes melted into the stone. The bone bell lay in her hands, cold and inert. It no longer pulsed. It no longer whispered. It was waiting. She opened her grandmother's final journal, the one she hadn't dared read until now. The pages were brittle, the ink faded, but the message was clear. The 13th prayer is not spoken aloud. It is lived. To seal the veil, one must offer not just blood, but memory. Forget the bell. Forget the forest. Forget the names. Clara understood. The ritual wasn't complete. She had sealed the pit, silenced the bell, but the veil remained fragile. The hollow saint had accepted her offering, her presence, her sacrifice, but it demanded more. It demanded erasure. She lit 13 candles around the chapel, each one representing a guardian, a child, a secret. She placed the bone bell at the center and surrounded it with salt. Then she began to speak, not prayers, but stories. She told the chapel everything, about the forest, the pit, the saint, the villagers, her grandmother. With each word, a candle extinguished. With each memory, a piece of her faded. She spoke of the faceless woman, the ash-covered boy, the burning trees. She spoke of the oath, the seal, the price. She spoke of the moment she rang the bell 13 times and felt the world shift beneath her feet. When the final candle died, Clara felt hollow. Not empty, hollow. She looked around. The chapel was clean. Restored. The altar gleamed. The stained glass was whole. The 13th bell was gone. She stepped outside. The village was alive. Children played in the square. Smoke rose from chimneys. Laughter echoed through the streets. The forest swayed gently in the breeze. No one looked at her strangely. No one asked about the bell. No one remembered. Not even her. She walked past Father Merrick, who nodded politely, unaware of who she was. She passed the boy from the square, now smiling, his face free of ash. She saw her grandmother, or someone who looked like her, tending to a garden, humming a tune Clara couldn't place. She felt peace. But also loss. She returned to her apartment in Krakow, unpacked her satchel, and found it empty. No journals. No bell. No notes. Her thesis draft was blank. Her research files corrupted. Her bookshelf missing a row. She sat at her desk and stared at the wall. Something tugged at her, a whisper, a flicker, a shadow. She opened a drawer and found a single item. A candle. Unlit. Wrapped in salt. She didn't know where it came from. She didn't know what it meant. But she placed it on the windowsill and lit it. And somewhere, deep in the forest of Swierzyn, a faceless woman watched. And waited.